Recording in progress.
Ready? Hello?
हेलो
Yes.
सर वो स्टूडियो वाले सर का नंबर दे देंगे क्या सर? मैं ये पूछ लूंगा कि आपका जो कैमरा है वो कौन से नाम से है, वेलकम या अभिनव, कौन से नाम से सर?
वेलकम नाम से कैमरा है, अभिनव से।
हमारा
हाँ,
वेलकम
वेलकम।
वेलकम। ठीक है सर, मैं वो को होस्ट बना देता हूँ। इनसे उनका अगर नंबर दे देते
हाँ,
तो
मैं दे
कुछ
दूंगा,
अगली क्लास में भी कुछ पूछना हो तो मैं उन्हीं को
मैं दे देता हूँ। आप इनको नंबर बता दीजिए अपना। स्टार्ट करें सेशन।
लीजिए मेरा लीजिए 9205029842।
सेशन रेडी?
माइक ऑन है सर?
Good morning. Welcome to this session of International Relations. I'm Srikant Bhagat, and today we are going to discuss about the strategy and syllabus of the international relations. It's a GS2 paper, GS2 in mains and in preliminary. It is covering a very good number of questions. So first of all, we are going to discuss what shall we study in international relations, what shall be our syllabus, number one. Number two, what should be our strategy, how to prepare international relations topic. And with the help of the previous year questions, we shall understand what is UPSC's demand. And then I'll start discussing on the subject matter. So let's see, first of all, let's see its coverage in UPSC first of all. In UPSC CSE examination, in UPSC CSE examination or civil service examination, it covers questions in prelims, it covers questions in mains, even in interview question is asked from this area. So in preliminary examination, we have a trend like earlier before 2022, there used to be less questions from IR in preliminary. But since 2022, approximately 10 to 14 questions. Number of question is 10 to 14 in prelims. This we are seeing since 2022. In 2025 itself, there was 10 questions from IR. And in mains examination, if we have, generally we know that there are direct questions asked from IR. It is in GS2. In GS2, direct question is asked, and it is 50 marks question, direct question. It's a 50 marks direct question. This is question number 9, question number 10, question number 19, question number 20. So this is 50 marks is direct question covered. It's a 50 marks direct question covered. Okay. So question number 19, 10, 19, 20, this is GS2's question. And not just GS2 question, we have in GS4, like we have ethics paper. In ethics paper, international ethics is a very important part. So we have GS4, this question varies, its number varies. It may maybe from theory they can ask question, in case study they can ask question. So somehow between 30 to 50 marks question can be asked, between 30 to 50 marks question can be asked in thinkers and case studies both. So in thinkers part and case studies both in GS4. And not only this, in essay also there can be a question from international relations. So essay questions generally from social issues or philosophy or governance question is asked, but there can be a question which touch the international relations part. And that next comes the interview portion. A good number of question in the interview is asked by the board from the candidates from IR. So its number is not clear, but it covers a substantial portion of the syllabus. That means how significant international relations is, how significant international relations is for UPSC. It's very important you came to know. That is why when you are studying international relations, there are two approaches to prepare international relations. We have seen that the current based approach, generally students follow, a trend is there. Students follow current based preparations. No, there is a trend in students that just cover the current part, and current is the most neglected part. Generally students start preparing current at the last, when the syllabus is going to finish, when the exam is nearby. Therefore when they write answer in preliminary it's okay, but when they write answer in the mains examination, when they are writing GS paper 2 or GS paper 4, when they are writing those parts, they miss the interlinkages, they miss the foundations, they miss the basics of those content. And because of that, they know they have written, they have prepared the current, so they have prepared the current IR, so they know that they have written, but if they don't get the good marks, they are surprised why marks is not good. Reasons are there. When your marks is poor, reasons are there. You have not written something you must have written. You have not written something which is very important. So in IR also it works. When you have weak foundation, your strength in IR is poor, you are not able to connect things from the past, you are not able to understand the previous developments, you are not able to understand the interlinkages of the history, you are not able to understand how one event is related to some other event, then your answer is poor. Your answer is unidirectional. Your answer is not taking the multiple sides of the syllabus. Therefore, you perform poorly. So what we see here, the current based preparations trend is there, but what is required? A holistic approach. Holistic approach means there must be interrelationship, there must be foundations. So foundation should be strong. For example, if there is a recent development, Operation Sindoor is an example. So you know Operation Sindoor, what different steps India has taken. There may be question asked about the significance of Operation Sindoor, or the pre-Operation Sindoor events, or the holistic diplomacy of India after Pahalgam attack. Suppose this is the question, then you are writing Indus Water Treaty. Indus Water Treaty, you know few basic things of Indus Water Treaty, that will not be sufficient. If you know the significant strategic, economic, diplomatic aspects of Indus Water Treaty, you are writing in your answers concerning Operation Sindoor or pre-Operation Sindoor India's initiatives, your answer can be concrete good. So any topic you are writing, your foundation should be strong. you must be able to interrelate various developments of the world. Here and there, you are able to quote some historical events. In that case, you can show to examiner that you have holistic understanding of the subject matter. Your impression will be very good and you will get good marks. So what I suggest here, a holistic approach in which you need to have foundations also, you need to have interrelationship also, and there should be current developments too. You cover the current developments too. So IR, a very important segment, 50 marks in mains directly, indirectly 30 to 50 marks in ethics paper. In essay paper, you are directly or indirectly writing so many things from IR. In interview, it works. In preliminary, there is a question 10 to 14 questions has been asked from IR. This year, 2025 itself, there has been 10 questions from IR. So keeping that in mind, we need to have a comprehensive understanding and study of this paper, this part of the syllabus of GS. Now, let us understand, let us see the syllabus, what we are going to cover in this segment. Now, one more thing I should discuss, like I have seen so many materials and teachers and YouTube lectures. There is more emphasis on the India related IR. It's true that India related IR is very important. But if you see the pattern of question UPSC has asked in the past, India's interrelationship with that event is important, but the global events have been covered. Global developments in geopolitics has been covered. Global development in the geoeconomics has been covered. Global developments in various security related concerns or strategic concerns have been covered by the UPSC in its questions. So let's have understanding of what we are going to study first, and then I'll show you some questions of the previous year, especially from the mains examination. Questions had been asked by UPSC that I'll show to you, and based on that we'll start preparing, and our preparation will be definitely starting with the historical background. So let's have first look at our syllabus. Means what shall be the domain of your preparation, what you should cover, what should be covered in IR. First of all, there must be some knowledge of historical background, historical developments which is influencing diplomacy. For example, today we are discussing about the soft power diplomacy, for example. Now, soft power diplomacy means hard power means security, defense related. Soft power means maybe we are using the cultural domain of diplomacy, sports diplomacy we are using, or diaspora diplomacy we are using. So, soft power diplomacy had been there in the past. Ashoka's diplomacy was soft power diplomacy. He sent missions to promote Buddhism. His son Mahendra and Sanghmitra, his daughter, to Ceylon, Southeast Asian countries. He sent missions there to promote Buddhism. And that diplomacy was soft power diplomacy. So soft power diplomacy is there in the history, is there in the approach of Ashoka the Great. So history has some connect with the present day diplomacy. Like Kautilya says, enemy is friend. Afghanistan, Indo-Afghanistan relationship. When you are writing answer about the recent Indo-Afghan relationship developments, you can quote Kautilya's words, enemy is friend. It is true for China when it is taking Pakistan as its ally. So history teaches us something. Your understanding of the history is very important. It helps you connect the historical past with the current developments. It enriches your answer. It gives you better marks than you expect. So historical background we shall study, starting from some of the histories in Ramayana, Mahabharata, or we have Ashoka's or Arthasastra's event. Then comes Treaty of Windsor 1386 between England and Portugal. And from there the Treaty of Vienna. Like that I'll teach you. historical background. It is not directly, UPSC is not directly asking question from history, but knowledge of these developments help you connect your international relationship. Okay. Then comes evolution of India's foreign policy. This is also like historical development, historical background. It is important because here and there you must write what happened, like Nehruvian strategy, Nehruvian era of idealism is a concept. Idealism in international relationship, the approach to foreign policy, idealist approach. There can be realist approach. I'll teach you what is idealist approach, what is realist approach. So Nehru was idealist in terms of international relations. What happened during his period, as brief summary we will discuss. Then shift during Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi. Indira Gandhi continued some of the policies of Nehru, then deviated from him. Indira Gandhi became hardball politician in terms of international relations. So her approach became more realist in nature. With the passage of time, shift came. So shift in Indira's period, Rajiv's period, we shall study. And then complete transformation came during liberalization. And the liberalization of economy, India passing through various crises, turn of the event. India started heading towards global world, global order, rise of WTO, and India's shifting geopolitical dynamics. So here liberalization and new policy initiatives is the evolution of foreign policy. And then right wing means the BJP. We use term right wing for BJP, Hindutva policy. So right wing politics today it's called majority politics. Previous politics were focused on how to protect the minorities, but today's politics is, previous politics was appeasement or maybe interest of everyone, but today Hindu or majority population considered more and more. Therefore, this right-wing diplomacy has a new tone, new approach, like integration of Jammu and Kashmir has taken place here. Like how the cultural domain of India, Vasudev Kutumbakam as a philosophy has been promoted, propagated. So this advent of right-wing and majority politics, we shall study the evolution of India's foreign policy since from the Nehru's period to the present day Modi's period. How there was continuity, how there was change, we shall study in this part. It's very important part. Is a post-independence India's politics. Then we shall have India and its neighbor. This neighbor is immediate neighbor. I'll show you that how more and more question has been asked from this area. So Pakistan, China, Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Myanmar, these are immediate neighbors of India. Sri Lanka, Maldives, immediate neighbors of India. And there has been questions from this area. I'll discuss. The question has been asked from Maldives. It has been asked from Sri Lanka. It has been asked from China. So immediate neighbor question has been asked more and more. Then we shall study India, West Asia and Middle East. West Asia, oil politics, energy security related questions asked by UPSC in the past. So West Asia and Central Asia, Middle East policy are affected by the energy security is a major concern. So India, West Asia, presently West Asia, Israel's newer developments, or what is happening in Syria, or what is the policy of US towards the West Asian countries. So how India is fitting into that politics, Indo-West Asia, Middle East politics. Then India, Central Asia. Central Asia is very important part. The great game theater is a great game theater from long time. We have seen that Afghanistan has been picked by Russia. So Russian forces existed in Afghanistan. When Russian forces left, the America started influencing Afghanistan. Then America withdrew. New equation comes. In the wake of Afghanistan's strategic position, America has started giving new support to Pakistan. So shift in the Indo-US relationship presently after Operation Sindoor. Why Afghanistan is a theater? Because of that. So we will study this dynamics of relationship here. And then India, Southeast Asia, then Indo-France, Indo-UK new energy tie-up, Indo-US, Indo-Oceania, Indo-Germany, Indo-Russia. Now these are the relationship of India that is basically more or less more or less it is bilateral relationship with the nations. So bilateral relationship with the immediate neighbors or the neighbors of India very close to India, then far neighbors also there, beyond some the near neighbors, or we say East Asia policy or Look East policy or Africa policy of India. Indo-African question has been asked in terms of technology transfer. Question was asked by UPSC in mains. So we'll still study bilateral relationship. Then there will be multipolar or multilateral diplomacy. Is a multipolar or multilateral diplomacy. So multipolar diplomacy is something where so many players are together. It may be multilateral institutions like UN and related bodies, may be one of the examples. Then there can be ASEAN, BIMSTEC, AUKUS, Quad, SCO, SARC, BRICS, IPSA, I2, U2, G20, G77. These are multilateral institutions and India's role here. So we shall discuss the India's tryst with multipolar diplomacy in this segment. Multipolar diplomacy, I'll show you that recently questions have been shifted from individual or bilateral relations to multilateral relations. In preliminary also question has been asked from the multilateral institutions. From in 2025 itself, there was question from BIMSTEC. There was question from IBRD. There was question from NATO. Question asked by UPSC from these segments. So multilateral diplomacy is very important. Understanding institutions, its functioning, its roles in various aspects of human life, its role in strategy, its role in economy, its role in geopolitics. So we shall study how it works with the help of the current developments. We shall be doing this. Then Indo-Pacific is one of the multipolar diplomacy, but very special to India. Indo-Pacific we shall study. Then Indian diaspora and diplomacy we shall be doing. So Indian diaspora means Indians settled abroad in different parts of the world. Like Indians settled in America and they are rising. They are creating influence. They are bringing America's policy in favor of India, or they are somehow pressurizing American government to not going against India. Similarly, Indians are there in Australia. Indians are there in various other parts of the world. So Indians present, Indian diaspora's presence and their influence on the policy of the country, especially foreign relations. How Indians are changing the dynamics of the policies of other parts of the world in favor of India. That we shall study in Indian diaspora and diplomacy. And the very important, the recent topics have been soft power diplomacy. That soft power diplomacy had been a strategy of the Modi government. Like apart from strategic diplomacy, use of the non-strategic dimensions. For example, sports. There can be culture. There can be diaspora. There can be other platforms on which the diplomacy can be played or international relations can be established. So cricket diplomacy is a soft power diplomacy. Or Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, when we talk about this, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is a soft power diplomacy. So yoga is a means by which the international relationship can be established. Indian Prime Minister going to South Korea, connect with the rulers there or people there with India. Soft power diplomacy. So soft power diplomacy is a very important, whereas there are various aspects and dynamics of this soft power diplomacy that we shall study. What are different dynamics of soft power diplomacy, how India is heading towards establishing a hegemony in the world or bigger part of the world with the help of this soft power diplomacy. We shall study various aspects. Then digital diplomacy is a topic where India stands in, that we shall be discussing. And then comes contemporary issues and challenges. Now see, it's true that our focus will be on the current developments. What shall we do? These are the syllabus. Once again, I am recapping it to you. historical background, evolution of foreign policy post independence till today, India and its neighbor, then India, West Asia, Middle East, Central Asia, Southeast Asia, France, UK, US, Oceania means Australia and related countries, New Zealand, etc. India, Germany, evolving relationship, Indo-Russia, all-weather friendship, and multipolar diplomacy. Then various institutions we are going to study here. Indo-Pacific will be studying it very specifically, very deeply, Indo-Pacific part. Okay. Then Indian diaspora, soft power diplomacy, digital diplomacy, and contemporary issues. It's true that in most of the cases, our focus will be current. Definitely, we will be focusing on the current because we can't discuss all the relationships so extensively, so deeply. So if we have to talk about, suppose, focus Brazil. So focus Brazil will be current based, or Indo-Africa current based. But when we are studying about Pakistan, China, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, or when we are talking about UN, you are talking about the IBSA, BRICS. In these cases, we shall have holistic, comprehensive understanding, plus interrelationship of various dynamics of them. So focus will be, definitely focus will be current. Our focus of study will be current, but comprehensive study for major part of the syllabus. These major parts are, like I said, India's neighbors, comprehensive understanding, India's policy strategy, comprehensive understanding. So our approach will be current for most of the syllabus, but there will be some or important major parts where our study will be comprehensive. Now I shall discuss with you, apart from discussing about the questions, I shall be discuss with you the what strategy you should follow, how to prepare. I will discuss that strategy. Before that, let us take up some of the previous year question asked by UPSC to understand the level of questions by UPSC. It will help you understand how to start preparing, what should be our level of preparation. To understand that, we need to understand the questions. So I have taken up the questions of previous year from mains here, previous year mains question. It is 2025's question I have taken in first sheet. 24's questions I have taken, then 23, 22's question I have taken. In 25, let's see the questions of 25. India-Africa Digital Partnership is achieving mutual respect, co-development, and long-term institutional partnership. Elaborate. See, this question is not just you prepare, it's about Indo-Africa or India-Africa. It's not a general question. It is basically about mutual respect, co-development, and long-term institutional partnership, about digital partnership. It is in the context of digital partnership. It's a very specific question. This question is very specific. You can't beat around the bush. Means if you don't know specifically about the digital partnership, like how India helps some of the African nations develop their UPIs or using their UPIs, how India is helping developing Aadhaar based system in Africa. If you don't know this, you can't write the answer. Means just you know about Indo-Africa and you use general terms like economic, strategic, cultural, technological, this will not work. Because when you write answer of UPSC, some answers can have better impression for you. When you beat around the bush, when you are writing something which is not demanded, when you are writing wrong things, then your impression gets affected. So in that question, in this question, you will lose marks. Plus in other questions, your marks will become average. Some of the questions are there. If you see some of the questions, they are very specific. So specific that without understanding of the specific digital partnership of India and Africa, you can't write the answer. If you try to write the answer, you are beating around the bush. You are writing something here and there. If and what, then your answer will create bad impression for you. In this question, you will be losing marks. Plus in other questions, your impression will impact your marks. Your marks can be average even if you are writing very good. So this is very specific question from Africa. So see, not immediate neighbor Africa. And in Africa, digital partnership. Then coming to with the waning of second question, let's see. It's a 10 marks question. 150 words answer you have to write. In 2025, one more question was there. With the waning of globalization, post-Cold War world is becoming a site of sovereign nationalism. Very conceptual. How waning means? Reducing. Impact of globalization is reducing. So with the waning of globalization, post-Cold War world is becoming a site of sovereign nationalism. Elucidate. So sovereign nationalism is rising and globalization is waning, reducing. Very highly conceptual. If you understand this concept, how globalization has affected the global relationship, international relationship in the past 1990s, first decade of 21st century, then you can understand how the decline of globalization will lead towards sovereign nationalism. How globalization is reducing? Is it reducing because of the regional politics? Is it reducing because of the countries not accepted or not ready to accept the global laws, global constitutions? If you understand the concept, how globalization reducing, you can write the answer. So highly conceptual. Second question is very conceptual. Without concepts understanding, you can write nothing. Difficult question. And then I discussed the syllabus, West Asia, Middle East. So energy security related question. Energy security constitutes the dominant kingpin of India's foreign policy. So India's overarching influence in Middle East related question it was asked. So energy security is a topic. Then question is from reform process in UN. And the reform process in UN affected by the East-West divide. Imbalance in the East and West. Reform process, what reform process? Is related to United Nations Security Council. So this question is very specific. United Nations reform is very specific. Yeah, energy security, you can write something. Here, without understanding concept, you can write nothing. So question is from digital relationship with partnership with Africa, globalization's decline, energy security, United Nations reforms, which is getting influenced by delicate imbalance of East-West and entanglement of USA, Russia, China is related term. Then you see 2024's question. So there is a West is fostering India as alternate to China. West is fostering India as an alternate to China. So India's growing significance for the West. in relation to China. Earlier, China was given more significance, more importance. Deng Xiaoping's period. Rajiv Gandhi was trying to have very good relationship with the West. But West was not giving much space to India. In recent past also, West was more inclined towards China. But by observing China's hegemony, China's increasing influence in Africa, European countries, West is searching for alternative. So West giving more priority to India. It is not about Indo-China relationship. It is about Indo-West relationship. Okay. So 24th question. With the example, you have to write this answer. Then, then India's critically analyze India's evolving diplomatic, economic and strategic relationship with the Central Asian republics. And how highlighting their increasing significance in regional and global geopolitics. How India is heading towards Central Asian republics, Central Asian countries, and its significance in the geopolitics, regional diplomacy, how it is affecting. So India Central Asia relationship. Then comes terrorism. It seems that very simple question, very easy question. Terrorism used. Terrorism has become a significant threat to global peace and security. Seems to be very easy. But question is not so easy. Question is asked, evaluate the effectiveness of United Nations Security Council's counter-terrorism committee. There is UNSC's counter-terrorism committees and its associated bodies. Like associated bodies like the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, are associated bodies. In addressing and mitigating this threat at the international level. So you know about terrorism, you know. Writing about terrorism is not asked. Question is asked that how United Nations Security Council is your first level of preparation. No? When you start preparing for IR, you must know that UN and its bodies, Security Council is one of the bodies with 5 permanent members, 10 non-permanent members, you know. But not about that. About the counter-terrorism committee of that UNSC. And not just a counter-terrorism committee of UNSC, also the other associated bodies like Financial Action Task Force, United Nations Office on Counter-Terrorism, UNOCT. So associated bodies also. It's very specific question. UNSC CTC had some discussions meeting. India also invited the committee members for discussion. Because India is interested in working with the world in the field of counter-terrorism. India appreciated creation of CTC. India called a meeting of the members representatives of CTC. So if you don't know CTC, then you can't answer this question. And understanding CTC means you must understand how UNSC strategically to be prepared. Just preparing UNSC is not sufficient. You need to prepare the strategic working of the UNSC at various level. So your preparation should be strategic. You understand what UNSC's domain you need to prepare. So question is very difficult question. It's also 250 words, 15 marks question. And then comes discuss geopolitical and geostrategic importance of Maldives for India. So Maldives is definitely it's a comparatively very easy question because as a neighborhood countries, it seems Maldives comes last here. But UPSC has given importance to Maldives. It has asked question from Maldives. China's growing influence in Maldives these days. Maldives looking towards UK also for resolution of its problems. And if China becomes present in Maldives strategically, it can be disadvantageous for India. Therefore, India wants to attract Maldives towards it. So Maldives is very important country because it falls in Indian Ocean. Any other countries means it falls into the lap of, sits into the lap of China. Imagine. It can create a naval base or air force base or some other bases after colonizing Maldives by giving financial assistance. It can be dangerous. So UPSC, it's not like India's neighborhood countries are very important. India's neighborhood countries are very important, and in neighborhood countries, Maldives is also very important. Like you can't leave Maldives, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan. Every country is important. Not just Indo-Pakistan, not just Indo-China, not just Indo-Bangladesh. So every country of the neighborhood is very important because 15 marks question from Maldives has been asked. Imagine. Then there was a question from SCO, virus of conflict affecting the functioning of SCO. So conflict in the SCO members itself, India, Pakistan, both are member. Conflict in India and Pakistan. India, China are member. India, China conflict is there. So Kazakhstan conflicts are there. Russia, China relationship is affected. SCO's functioning is affected. So SCO, comparatively simple but need to prepare. Indian diaspora has scaled new heights in the West. Describe its economic and political benefits for India. Comparatively easy, but you must know the examples, name of the people, or in which country what influence, what impact diaspora has created. You must know. Then NATO question has been asked from NATO. Okay. So about the sea is an important component of cosmos, international maritime organizations functioning. IMO's functioning in protecting environment and enhancing maritime safety and security. So IMO is not so popular body, but from IMO they have asked the question. From Maritime Organization they have asked the question. In 2023 the question has been asked. Looking at this question, what we like, I could have gone through 22 also, but let's cut short this. I'll take up these questions. What will be our strategy to discuss things? Looking at the questions, what comes in? What do we require our strategy? It's true that question is not so easy. Question is not easy. In some cases, very specific. In some cases, it's a very specific question. And plus, what I said you, that holistic understanding of the subject matter is needed. Because suppose SEO. So in SEO, they are not asking question from what is SEO, how does it function? How the members conflict is impacting the functioning of SEO. So if you know the SEO members and the conflict between each other members, then only you can write the answer. So very specific and holistic also. One more thing you must have observed. I have observed here, like I discussed in previous classes also about this. So one dimension is India's neighborhood. Second dimension is India's foreign policy strategy. Third dimension is world politics. Fourth dimension is international organizations. So, dimension number one, before discussing the strategy, dimension number one, first dimension is India's bilateral relations. In our preparation for first dimension is India's bilateral relations. Dimension number one, India's bilateral relations. Number two, multilateral institutions. Number three, global politics. Regional politics, especially regional geopolitics. And within these dimensions, the area is economic, strategic, security is definitely related to strategic. So, strategic and security related concerns, technological, cultural, social. These areas we need to cover. In our syllabus, we need to cover these areas. Okay. I will discuss various when through the course of our discussion, I'll be discussing how to write answer, what component makes your answer better. I have experience of teaching in the field of civil service 18 years plus 19 plus years, you can say, going to be 20 years in 2026. And I know that what should be written, what should not be written. So we shall be discussing the topic number one. Number two, seeing the previous year questions from that area. I will format some of the questions answer, especially in the mains for the mains examination. Preliminary related questions will be given to you from that area. So strategy will be demarcating real syllabus, pointing out relevant and important, discussion on the topic, PYQ discussion, and then resolving your query. This will be our strategy in this class. Suppose I discuss Indo-Pakistan relationship. Then I will demarcate what is the syllabus, real syllabus. Real syllabus means what are the topics and issues which is the part of Indo-Pakistan relationship. And then from those, what is relevant? Like Sir Creek is also a segment of Indo-Pakistan relationship. I'll discuss with you Sir Creek. But Indus Water Treaty is more relevant today because India has put that treaty in abeyance after the Pahalgam attack. So, pointing out the relevant part and important part from that syllabus, like Indo-Pacific, there can be unlimited topics, but Sagar and Mahasagar is important. Quad is important. AUKUS is important. So, pointing out the important segment of the syllabus and then discussion on those topics. There will be previous year question discussion when I'll teach the subject, classify that syllabus, and then what is the previous year question asked from that area, especially the mains questions I say. And this discussion on the PIQ will be done and your query will be resolved. This will be my strategy. I will be writing on the board. Somehow, in some topics, I will give you some dictations. Dictations whenever needed, some points to be written, I will be giving, not consuming your time, not wasting your time. And you are open to ask question. My chat box is open. You can ask question. I will give you reply. But the question should be relevant. Question should be related to the topic I am teaching. If you want to ask anything, then it's not the right platform, not wasting the time of other students. So relevant questions, open, I will try to answer. Irrelevant questions, I will not be answering. Got the point? So as we discussed about the syllabus here, we shall start with the topic historical background. There are certain events in the history heading is historical background. Let's start our discussion on the subject. There are certain events in the history which has affected the foreign policy of the present day. Means what is today's foreign policy is not emerged today itself. Emergence of the foreign policy you can see way back in the past. It all happened way back in the past. So historical developments are there which impact how relations should be maintained. I am listing some of the, I'm giving you a list of those historical events. Going to, it is Epic World, Epic India, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Kautilya's Arthashastra, just brief idea about these I will be taking with you, so that when you are writing your IR related answers, you can put them somewhere. Then Ashoka's this ancient Indian India diplomacy. Then coming to Europe. First is a Treaty of Windsor, 1386. Then comes Congress of Vienna, 1815. Treaty of Versailles, 1919. World War II, 'Cold War', these are events we can say. Then disintegration, USSR, 1991. WTO is a very important development, 1994. Beyond this, what is we have at the present? So first of all, a brief how the foreign policy elements are there in Ramayana, Mahabharata. We see first in case of Ramayana, there was a idealist approach followed during Ramayana's period. There was an ideal alliance between Rama and Sugriv, Kiskindha period, Kiskindha Kand. So Sugriv, his wife was taken away, abducted by Bali, and Sugriv wanted Rama to help him. So alliance between Rama and Sugriv took place. First element, it was a moral alliance for moral purpose. Second element, we see the Hanuman. Hanuman was envoy. He was sent by Rama as a Doot of Rama, envoy of Rama, went to Lanka. Some people wanted the Hanumana to be killed, but the wise men of the period said that envoys should never be killed. It is not dharma to kill envoy. Even today, envoys and ambassadors get immunity. They are not killed. Whenever war is starting between two nations, envoys are given opportunity to leave. So the principles, some of the fundamental principles which was practiced during Ramayana, moral alliance, number one, idealist foreign policy, moral alliance, diplomatic immunity, was present during this period. Mahabharata period also found alliances. There was mix of moral and immoral components. So moral dilemma existed during this period. We have alliance of Duryodhana with Kamboja, Gandhar, from where Sakuni came, Anga, Karna's kingdom, Anga, Avanti, Gandhar, Kamboja, Yamana, northeastern. There was alliance of so many rulers against Pandavas. So this was based on moral dilemma. Why? Because where, on which side Bhishma Pitama should fight? From which side the Duryodhan's brother should fight? There was a dilemma for the Krishna also. So phase of moral dilemma. And war had some principles followed during war. no war. When the sun sets, there will be end to the war. Next day, a pause in the war. Next day, the war will start. A truce will be followed every sunset. So, moral wars with some immoral component, like entrapping of Abhimanyu is immoral. Like Karna was killed through some chadma, that was immoral. So some immoral components was there, but moral wars was fought. War should have some principles that we today require some of the principles of the ancient India to be followed in diplomacy. Moral war. So giving ample opportunity to the enemy to restore the previous position, and then war should start. There should not be guerrilla like war or war in the night period, war against the civilians, use of nuclear and chemical weapons. So war should have some principles we can learn from the ancient period texts, Ramayana and Mahabharata. Then comes Kautilya's Arthashastra. It's very important treatise on diplomacy. Let me discuss about some of the tenets of Arthashastra. So Arthashastra has mentioned about Saptanga. There is a Saptanga theory in Arthashastra. Seven limbs of state. So Rajan is one of the Raja, king is one of the limbs. Territory is one of the limbs. Raj Kosa is one of the limbs. Similarly, one of the limbs is Ali. Friend. Ali means a country as an ally. So Indo-Russia, India and Russia are ally. So ally is one of the very important component of state. Components of state, seven limbs of state. One of the limbs is ally. Friend. And diplomacy in this period, Arthashastra's period, was realist. In Arthashastra, there was realist diplomacy. We study Nehru's period. Nehru's period of diplomacy was the idealist diplomacy. It was taught long ago by Kautilya, the author of Arthashastra, that in diplomacy there cannot be total morality possible. He said we can't practice morality totally in diplomacy, in international relations. So he says in realist means interest of the what is realist policy, foreign policy, where moral principles cannot be followed in international relations. Realist policy recognized that moral principles can't be practiced totally in international relations. There is an idealist approach to foreign policy. Idealist approach is just opposite. Idealist approach says in the international relations also moral principles should be followed. Like Nehru believed that UN is very important institutions, a multilateral institutions for global peace. So if there is a conflict between India and Pakistan, it happened when the Kabilis entered into Indian territory of Kashmir. He approached the UN. That Nehru's following of this idea based on Article 51 of the Constitution. Article 51 is a DPSP. There was idealist policy of Nehru approaching UN in 1947 Indo-Pak War. Sanu is asking, sir, be noted all the whatever I am writing in the class lecture, you must write it. These are running notes you must make, Sanu. Okay. Notes is additional thing that is given by the academy, but you write these things. So what I am teaching here, Kautilya, again recap. Kautilya, we find the earliest mentioning of the diplomacy in details in Kautilya's Arthashastra. In a treatise Arthashastra, he mentions Saptanga theory, 7 limbs of state. He mentions ally, a friend or mitra, a country. This principle was a realist principle of diplomacy. His principles, Arthashastra, was realist principle of diplomacy. What is realist principle? Realist principle says moral principles can't be practiced totally in international relations. Akhil Patel says, how many classes you will take, sir? Approximately 24-25 classes I'll take, Akhil. Okay? Approx 24-25 classes I'll be taking. So moral principles can't be practiced totally in international relations. This is realist policy. And realist approach seeks national interest as priority. National interest is more important than the global interest. What is the realist approach? National interest is more important. You can write this point. National interest is more important than the global interest. Okay, is the realist approach. Opposite of this approach is idealist approach. Opposite is idealist. Like Nehru followed. When there was a Indo-Pak conflict, Pakistan army supported Kabilis to enter Jammu Kashmir territory. Then fight between Indo-Pakistan war started. Nehru went to UN for the settlement of the dispute. And this went against India's interest. Because UN intervened and said maintain status quo. Whatever was controlled by Pakistan will remain in the control of Pakistan. UN did not take up India's case that as per the treaty of partition, instrument of accession was signed in favor of India by Raja Hari Singh. Then Kashmir could have been India's territory. Alternatively, UN said that Pakistan wanted that a plebiscite should be conducted. So Nehru believed that UN is a multilateral body. It shall be resolving dispute between nations ideally. So why not approaching UN? Plus this was based on it. Why he taken up this? Because there was Article 51. Article 51 has various points. One of the points is that resolution of dispute through mediation. So Article 51 what says? Nehru practiced it. Is a DPSP Article 51. Nehru practiced, followed this, an idealist approach. Whether the decision is going to achieve national interest or not, this was not the concern for Nehru in this case. Nehru could not see that India's interest lies in India becoming a permanent member of Security Council. Russia supported that time. In place of India joining UNSC, Nehru was more concerned with China should become UN's member. So realist policy we see in Arthashastra. One more realist policies element in Arthashastra, one more mention. Quote by Kautilya, very important quote by Kautilya. An enemy's enemy is friend. An enemy's enemy is friend. Like we see case of China. For China, position of Pakistan in relation to India. For India, position of Afghanistan in relation to Pak. This realist policy we see today. Okay. Yeah, there can be middle path. Just first of all, let's discuss about realist and idealist policy. There can be a middle path followed. First, it is a realist policy. What realist policy? Let's see China. So why China prefers Pakistan? Or when America found China rising, China is a rival. Then America approached India. So China, when seen as an enemy, China's enemy India is a friend. Okay. So for China, Pakistan is a friend of India as an enemy. Pakistan is a friend of China. Why? Because it is enemy of India. And for India today, Afghanistan is an enemy of Pakistan. So Indo-Afghanistan relationship will be rising. It has taken a positive turn recent days, we have seen. So we see that the history teaches us. In diplomacy also we have a reference of Ramayana, where idealist moral alliances used to be there. We have reference of Mahabharata, moral dilemmas period in diplomacy. And Kautilya's Arthashastra, ancient India, Kautilya's Arthashastra, we have these components of diplomacy. Now there was a question from Akhil that there should be a middle path. What is middle path? So middle path is not compromising national interest, but convincing nations to become part of the global interest. Like India fostered, India supported, India propagated the idea of nuclear disarmament. It all started with Nehru. It happened in case of Rajiv. India supported nuclear complete disarmament or denuclearization of the world. India was preaching this. It is an idealist approach. But as a common minimum deterrence, but for self-defense, India tested nuclear weapons, either Operation Buddha, Smiling Buddha 1974 or Operation Shakti 1998. In Pokhran, twice India tested nuclear weapons. is a middle path. So India tested nuclear weapons, but India preached nuclear disarmament. Plus, India tested nuclear weapons, but India had its own nuclear policy, civil nuclear policy. No first use, no use against non-nuclear state, like that. So there can be a middle path where the national interests should not be compromised, but the ideal components can be supported, promoted, propagated for the global world, global interest. Is it clear? So what can be middle path here? Without compromising, a middle path without compromising national interest, promoting, preaching, propagating global interest. This is seen in case of Rajiv Gandhi's principles, policies. We see this. This we see in present day Modi government. Like India, in case of Russian-Ukraine war, in case of Russian-Ukraine war, India is adamant that West is following its own national interest, we shall follow. But on the other hand, India is also promoting the idea of Vasudev Kutumbakam. Whole world is one family. So simultaneous practice of global interest without compromising national interest will be a middle path. Okay. So this we discussed, like we have a reference to Kautilya's Arthashastra. In case of Ashoka's policy, what foreign policy related components we find? So Ashoka had sent various missions. In case of Ashoka, we have Ashoka sent various missions to, let me add the pages, some of the pages I should add. Ashoka, sorry. Sent various missions to Ceylon, Southeast Asia. Propagation of Buddhism. We know that this propagation of Buddhism parallelly developed. Yeah, propagation of Dhamma, especially. Buddhist ideas, Dhamma also. He appointed Dhamma Mahamatyas, and Ashokan pillar is filled with his idea of Dhamma. So propagation of Buddhism, Dhamma. He sent his son Mahendra, daughter Sanghamitra, to various missions. What happened? Simultaneously, along with this, trade links developed. Apart from cultural exchanges, Buddhism spreaded in various parts of Asia because of Ashoka's effort. And Buddhism opened the path of trade. So trade links, economic links emerged, developed because of this approach of Ashoka, this mission of Ashoka. And what we call this diplomacy, presently we call it a soft power diplomacy. What we call it? It's a soft power diplomacy is a soft power diplomacy. Presently, Modi government's achievement in diplomacy, it is said that Indira missed it. Indira missed it. Rajiv tried a bit. Nehru was never thoughtful in this regard. But the present government, the rightist government of the present, it extensively utilized it. That diplomacy is called soft power diplomacy. There is difference between soft state and soft power. I will discuss later on. So soft power diplomacy we find in case of Ashoka's propagation of Buddhism or promotion of Dhamma, Ashoka's Dhamma. Okay. So Ashoka's period. Then comes Treaty of Windsor. This is a treaty between, in the modern Europe or medieval Europe, you say treaty between UK and Portugal. UK England Portuguese Treaty 1386, Treaty of Windsor. Oldest alliance which exists even today. This is Treaty of Windsor, UK Portugal or England Portugal Treaty. It is oldest alliance. It is oldest alliance even today active, or oldest active alliance of the present day. Okay. So UK and Portugal's treaty oldest alliances between nations in the medieval period in Europe started here. Then comes Congress of Vienna. Very important. Congress of Vienna. It is important for your world history also. What you are studying here, it is important for world history also. Congress of Vienna. Can anyone speak what is Congress of Vienna? Can anyone say? Can anyone say what is Congress of Vienna? It took place in year 1815. It took place after the Napoleon losing the war in Waterloo. It took place when Napoleon lost war. So when yeah. So when Napoleon lost the war, Waterloo, Napoleonic War it is called. So when he lost the war here, Austria Metternich, Austrian Finance Minister Metternich. Metternich was Prime Minister of Austria. Here he came as a Finance Minister. Austria was the greatest loser in the Napoleonic War because the French Revolution had created nationalism in other parts of the Europe. Because of that nationalism, Austrian Empire, which was grand, was marked by nationalist movements. First World War also took place because of the Serbian nationalism. So Austria had a great empire with multiple nationalities. Austria could be the greatest loser. Austria was the loser. So Austria came to organize the Europe in the pre-Napoleonic phase. So the purpose was Austria to reorganize the Europe in pre revolution phase. It was basically there must be the boundaries of the pre-Napoleonic era should be followed, with new powers getting new territory for balance of power. So reorganizing the Europe, balance of power, a concert of Europe was created. In the conference, major participants of the treaty were Austria, England, Prussia, Russia. Apart from that, the representatives from Portugal, from Spain also came. But these four were the major participants. Apart from that, from France, the Louis XVI's next generation also participated. So Bourbon monarchs came to join, because after this treaty, the throne of France was handed over to the king, Louis. So this treaty is very important. Why? Because for the first time in this treaty, balance of power came as a theory. First time. Organization of multilateralism established. That is concept of Europe. From here starts a kind of diplomacy where multiple players should come sit together, bargain about their national interest, and come to a term which is acceptable to all. So here Vienna is very important. It's a demise of Napoleon. But Napoleon never demised, because he propagated the idea liberty, equality, justice to other parts of Europe. And series of movements started after this. Unification of Italy took place, unification of Germany took place. Other nationalities of the Europe started demanding their claims. Austria had to divide into Hungary, then multiple nationalities were created from Austria later on. So this event is very important, because after this event, regrouping in the Europe, balancing in the power structure of Europe, non-intervention into internal affairs until unless demanded by group of countries. So Treaty of Vienna, Congress of Vienna. After Vienna, a major event came, that is First World War. So next historical development was Treaty of Versailles. What we see in Treaty of Versailles of 1919, the concept of sanctions. The idea of sanctions. Imposed self moratorium. Realist diplomacy. Idealist diplomatic proposal. Multilateral organization. Or it is called precursor of UN. This is precursor of UN, that is League of Nations. See what is here, Treaty of Versailles, concept of sanctions for the first time, like Treaty of Versailles, it was a treaty of allied and Axis powers. Treaty had 4 representatives one representative from England, Lloyd George, from France came Orlando, from Italy came Orlando, from France its prime minister came, name I am forgetting, he was called Lion also, he was very sharp, and from the France, Italy, US, from US came Woodrow Wilson, the president of US. 4 people joined this treaty. Orlando from Italy withdrew from treaty. 3 countries signed the treaty. Germany was invited after the treaty terms was completed. Therefore, Treaty of Versailles is also called dictated peace, because 3 countries unilaterally drafted the treaties and the treaty's terms were imposed on Germany. It provided opportunity to Hitler to propagate his vision and ideas. He became the chancellor, then the first chancellor, then the dictator, Führer, and the Second World War took place. So the seed of the Second World War was there in the First World War's treaty itself. Treaty of Versailles carried the seed of the Second World War. Some historians also call Treaty of Versailles as an armistice, not the end of war. It was an armistice. It was a truce for a temporary period. Because after 20 years, again the war taking place, because Germany could never fulfill the conditions which was imposed on Germany after the Treaty of Versailles. So first component of this was concept of sanctions. Economic sanctions was imposed on Germany. Military sanctions was imposed on Germany. Germany had to hand over its coal field to France. Damage of the war to be paid by Germany. Indemnity of war was to be paid by the Germany. Germany's mines, coal fields, iron ore fields were controlled by the France for exploitation. Germany lost 10% of its European territory. Territory was controlled by Rhineland's major part, a big part of Rhineland was handed over to France. German army could not exceed 1 lakh. This Germany had to maintain by itself, self-moratorium, demilitarization. Germany had to hand over its colonies, very less colonies with Germany. But that also Germany had to hand over, surrender. Germany could not erect colonies, self-moratorium. So in diplomacy, we have word like sanctions, self-moratorium or moratorium. It came from Versailles. Realist diplomacy, it was a realist diplomacy in terms of France. France wanted future security from the attack from Germany. Therefore, France wanted to crush Germany. Therefore, the practical, impossible things were imposed on Germany, which was practically not feasible. That terms also imposed on Germany. So that Germany becomes so weak that it could never dare to repeat an attack over the France. This fear of the realist approach compelled France to impose hardest sanction ever given to any loser country in the history of the modern world. And that Germany's economy deteriorated, employment condition, inflation was so high, galloping, and rise of Hitler, leading towards Second World War. And then comes idealist diplomatic proposal also. It was a Wilson's 14 point program. This 14-point program of Wilson was a proposal which is called idealist. Wilson wanted an idealist world, ideal world order, and he suggested League of Nations. League of Nations was established. Although League was not followed by Hitler, League's conditions were not followed by Hitler, but League of Nations was suggested by Woodrow Wilson. He wanted that the countries should leave their colonial positions. There must be trusteeship created. So trusteeship council exists even in UN today. So he wanted trust territories to be created. He wanted a genuine imposition of fine penalty on Germany. He wanted a just condition of treaty. He wanted to sideline the secret treaties conditions. He wanted League of Nations. These all were idealist proposal. So in the world of realism, Wilson was the only hope of idealism. In the world history, this topic is very important. So Wilson's idealism was there in his 14 points program. And Wilson suggested League of Nations. League of Nations is the precursor of the UN. Today, UN is most significant multilateral organization of the world. UN is the most significant multilateral organization of the world. UN is just the brainchild of Woodrow Wilson because it comes from the idea of League of Nations. Got the point? So we have a Treaty of Versailles, and then comes 3 more developments which impacted foreign policy, which we have to complete in today's discussion. One is World War II. Most of the present structures, global structures, were created after the World War II, and they were created because of World War, especially World War II. So World War II, we have UN created because of World War II, post World War II development. We have IBRD. In 2025, UPSC in preliminary asked a question from IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. This is World Bank. And IMF. They are called Bretton Woods twins, you must be knowing. They are called Bretton Woods twins. They were created to restructure economy, create a balance in the balance of payment structure. So UN, IBRD, IMF, or various conventions on human rights, like on human rights, on liberty, on poverty, on security. These all were drafted. Why? Because of the World War II. The development in the World War II was such that all countries of the world realized there must be cooperation, there must be fair play, there must be working together, there must be harmony, so that world can live in peace. So World War II was very important event which created a condition environment in which multiple institutions were established, multiple conventions and treaties were signed. So today's international relations is affected by these institutions and these conventions. Most of the conventions today are extension of the conventions which were passed post World War. Okay. Then comes Cold War. Cold War is very important part. Even today we have the spillover effect of the Cold War. Even today we can see. What happened? Cold War was a war which never took place between West and the East. One side represented by America and second eastern side represented by Russia. There was a condition of war. There was a tension like war. There was always a sensitization that there may be war any time, but war never took place. So there was a possibility of sudden, abrupt emergence of war. This condition is called Cold War. Cold War period is very important because it led towards armament, nuclearization. America tested nuclear weapons once the American president had said, Truman said, that had we possessed third bomb, it could have been tested in Moscow. So 2 nuclear bomb was dropped in Japan to give message to Russia. 2 nuclear bombs were dropped in Japan to give message to Russia. Russia was ally of US UK. But America was sending message to Russians that if you dare, we can drop it to Moscow, drop it to Petersburg. So America was nuclearizing itself. Russia was following it. American complaining, American alleging that Russia started stealing technology from America, using its spy networks. Nuclearization reached such a stage, like we will discuss about SALT and START, Strategic Arms Limitation Talk, Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. In 1970s, when the START was to be signed, in that particular period, America and Russia had more than 10,000 nuclear arsenals at their disposal. Not nuclear bomb only, but all things combined together, they had more than 10,000 piles of such dangerous weapons. From there, they had to reduce it to 2,000. I will discuss in the SALT, START 2, etc. We'll discuss about it. So, Cold War led towards alliance between East and the West. West was led by America. East was led by Russia. Today, NATO is significant. Why? Because you see, NATO works today. NATO is active today. NATO is a Cold War alliance. It's a Cold War alliance. 12 prominent members, 20 additional members, 32 members are there. North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and it was created to restrict the advance of Russia in the Western Europe. Even today, NATO members are in support of Ukraine against Russian war. Ukraine is trying to pull the conditions of the NATO. America wants Ukraine to be helped from the NATO. And this is the core idea of conflict between Russia and Ukraine going on today. UPSC asked question from NATO 2025 itself. Which countries are member of the NATO? Some countries' name has been given. I'll show you the question. So NATO, Cold War development. Nuclear armament, Cold War development. Nuclear non-proliferation treaty, Cold War development. Cold War non-aligned movement, Cold War development. Various developments of the international relation or diplomacy today, they are Cold War. It comes from Cold War. So Cold War is greatly affecting, it has great impact. Cold War has great impact on diplomacy even today. Got the point? And then Cold War ended with disintegration of USSR, rise of unipolar world, America becoming great power, Russia lost its power. In that case, USSR disintegrated, Russia became weak. In that case, the shift of power center to US led towards a change in the dynamics of politics. Geopolitics dynamics changed. Indian foreign policy was influenced by this development in post liberalization era. India was dependent on Russia for its military support, economic ties. But Russian president of the USSR's president that time, Gorbachev, was not interested in India becoming so powerful. It was in favor of China. It wanted a balanced South Asia. And India had to search for new friends. Therefore, Look East policy. Later on, Gujarat Doctrine were influenced by disintegration of USSR, weakening of Russia. American hegemony, American superpower status, American centrality led towards Pakistan emboldened, Pakistan becoming strong. And support from China also made Pakistan looking towards India for frequent skirmishes. In those days, Indo-Pak diplomacy risen to positive direction but declined to the worst of 3 decades. So Cold War had impact on India's diplomacy, India's foreign relations also. Similarly, disintegration of Russia also, USSR also created impact on India's diplomacy of the world as a whole. And then came WTO. WTO is basically 1994 this agreement was passed, and from 1st January 1995 agreement came into existence. 4 agreements combined together had been passed. GATT, General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, GATS, General Agreement on Trade in Services, TRIPS, Trade in Intellectual Property Rights, and TRIMS, Trade Related Investment Measures. 4 agreements were passed. It was to open the world. World market was to be opened. It created the idea of globalization. Concept like most favored nation status came from WTO. Globalization when led towards free trade, the global integration started taking place, world becoming one village. Economic diplomacy or geoeconomics started strengthening ties between the nations. It was a tool by which the rivalries could be kept aside, dehyphenation could be done. It was a tool by which the world order could be balanced, and a realist economic prosperity could be the core of international relations. And this helped in technological upgradation of the world. So WTO had overall impact on various dimensions of human beings' life. WTO was greatly affecting the transport of not just technology but also human beings' migration to different parts of the world. India gained from WTO. Open trade helped India break the cycles of Hindu growth rate and enter into the world of GDP, which is upward trending. Indian economy started strengthening. In India becoming a global power, hub of various aspects of the economy, trade, etc. It all because of India entering into a new world of globalization. So WTO had a great effect on not just the world politics. It was affecting India's foreign policy, India's economy, India's technological advancement, India's approach to the neighborhood countries, etc. All was affected by WTO. All have been affected by WTO. So we see that, what we see that there are historical events. They seems to be isolated events. It looks like that they are isolated events. Or when I teach, suppose I am talking about Ramayana or Mahabharata, some people seem it to be irrelevant. No, it's not irrelevant. Foreign policy either is influenced by the foreign policy of those days, number one. Either foreign policy of today learn from the foreign policy of those days, like Ashoka's policy, soft power diplomacy, or realist policy of Kautilya. Either it follow or they should learn. Like they should learn from Ramayana, the foreign policy during Ramayana's period. Or even Mahabharata's moral dilemma period. Foreign policy can be learned. So history teaches us in various fields. Maybe history may not teach us in the field of technology much. The far history may not teach us much in the field of technology. But far history teach us in the field of society, social relationship, cultural dynamics, international relations, state system, etc. So we have learned a lot from them. We need to learn a lot from them. Plus, we find that the glimpse of the history is present in as a continuation in the foreign policy dynamics even today. Clear? So now I would like to ask questions if it comes from your side. If any question is coming from your side, I can ask. You can ask questions. Today was my first lecture. I had to discuss about syllabus. Sometimes it seems that students don't like going through syllabus, but before starting of preparation, any subject you are starting preparation, you need to chalk out the syllabus first. Go through syllabus once. And history should never be historical background. The background of something should be studied first. Any question from your side? Next lecture, my next lecture will be, I will be discussing next lecture. Will be evolution of foreign policy in India from Nehruvian period. Yeah, there is a question what we are expected to study and from where. There are academies study material number one, because there can be books to study. I can suggest those who have time, those who are writing their examination in 2027, they can go through books. From the point of view of the books, we have a historical perspective, V.N. Khanna, and from current perspective, there is a book called Diplomatic Maze. Diplomatic Maze is a book written by Saurav Verma and IPS Abhishek Singh. They have written, Saurav Verma is the prime author. So that Diplomatic Maze is a book, a very good book on international relationship. You can follow if you want to follow books. If you want to prepare from study material, if you want to keep your study concise, then the academy's study material will be sufficient for you. Going through magazines are very important for current developments. You should go through various websites for those developments. For example, suppose if you are going for some foreign ministry, India's foreign ministry's website, external affairs ministry's website, then you will find various documents of agreements between India with multilateral organizations, bilateral relations with other countries. So that content can be taken out from there. I will be sharing with you some of the materials. Some PDF I will be sharing on recent developments, current related developments. Follow my class lecture. Based on that lecture, you can put the question. So you can prepare based on what I am teaching. So today I have taught you, suppose, historical background. So you can read historical background. Next day I am going to discuss about the evolution of the foreign policy in India. Then you should go through for evolution of foreign policy. You can prepare beforehand or after my lectures. Beforehand, brief reading helps you understanding better. if I teach Indo-Pakistan, before that if you prepare Indo-Pakistan, it will be best. Got the point? And I will, in between, I will be suggesting you for this topic you should read what. Apart from I share with you, I will suggest you for this topic what should you read, what should you go through. Always track newspaper. In newspaper, the Hindu or Indian Express, there are articles on recent developments. Like Mahasagar, Sagar article comes, you can write. Like Indus Water Treaty article comes is very important. So like that, international relations, newspaper reading is very important. Go through your newspaper reading as usual, but focus, try to see things from the point of view of the IR. And if you want some specific topic to be covered from here, you can write me. I will be suggesting you. I hope you like my class. If you have any query or any suggestion concerning the class, you can discuss through academies connecting WhatsApp channels or WhatsApp groups. Okay. Any other query, any other question from your side? So today it's enough for today. We are going to start a new topic from tomorrow. All the best. See you in the next class. Thank you very much.